The man in seat 11A had been asleep when the captain asked for a fighter pilot, and the quiet cabin felt like it inhaled all at once, as if the sky itself had paused to listen. His head rested awkwardly against the window, one arm curled protectively around a small boy whose breath fogged the glass in gentle clouds. Outside, the wind cut through a bruised evening sky, and inside, something unseen was about to be torn open, something buried beneath exhaustion and love and the weight of a life that had never stopped asking for more. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet heroes hidden in ordinary seats, please take a moment to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope tonight, and subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across miles and skies. His name was Daniel Carter, and sleep had come to him like a mercy rather than a choice. For 3 years, rest had been an enemy that arrived late and left early. The boy beside him was Noah, 6 years old, with eyelashes too long for a child who had already learned what loss felt like. Daniel had learned it too, the day a hospital hallway swallowed his wife and returned only a folded flag of memories, and the world reintroduced itself as a place where love could be taken without warning. Since then, Daniel had become everything at once, father and mother, cook and nurse, teacher and protector, learning to braid hair for school plays and to sit awake through fevers and bad dreams. He worked nights repairing avionics at a small airport, hands steady even when his heart shook, because airplanes had always made sense to him in a way life did not. They followed rules. They responded to care. If you respected them, they carried you safely forward. This flight was supposed to be simple. A borrowed suit folded in the overhead bin, a job interview waiting in a city he hoped would finally let them breathe. The kind of opportunity that felt fragile, like glass you carried close to your chest. Noah had fallen asleep before takeoff, trusting his father the way children do, with a faith that is both beautiful and terrifying. Daniel had closed his eyes and let the hum of the engines rock him, the lullaby of a sky he once knew intimately. The turbulence came without warning, not the casual bumps that make people glance up from screens, but a deeper shudder that rolled through the cabin like thunder under the floor. The seatbelt sign blinked on, then off, then on again, indecisive as a heartbeat. The air felt different, thinner, tighter. Daniel stirred, instincts rising from a place older than grief, a place trained to listen to machines the way others listen to music. He felt it before he understood it, a wrongness in the vibration, a note out of tune. Around him, murmurs swelled and fell. The attendants moved with practiced calm, but calm is a language that sometimes cracks at the edges. When the captain's voice came over the speakers, it was measured, professional, and carefully incomplete. There was a technical issue, the kind that required attention, the kind that did not need panic. Then, a pause that stretched too long, followed by a request that landed like a dropped tray. The captain asked if there was a fighter pilot on board who could assist. The cabin changed. Fear has a sound, and it is the soft scrape of shoes against carpet, the quickened breaths, the way people sit up straighter as if posture might save them. Daniel's eyes were open now. He felt Noah shift, a small hand clutching his shirt. The request echoed in his mind, not as a call to heroism, but as a reminder of a life he had folded away. Before nights under fluorescent lights and mornings packing lunches, there had been a cockpit and a call sign, a younger man with faster reflexes and fewer scars. He had flown fighters once, had learned to make decisions at speeds where doubt could kill you. He had left that life when love asked him to choose, and he had never regretted it, not even when the world took that love back. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with a familiar clarity. The challenge was not the sky or the machine. It was the boy beside him, the promise he had made to always come home. He felt the weight of eyes turning, hope and terror mixing into a single, desperate plea that did not need words. He kissed Noah's hair, breathing in the scent of shampoo and safety, and stood. Walking down the aisle felt like moving through water. Every step was a negotiation with memory. He remembered the last time he had worn a helmet, the way the visor reflected a sky that did not care who you were. He remembered the silence after landing, the strange peace of surviving another day. Now, there was no helmet, no jet, just a cabin full of strangers and a request hanging in the air like a prayer. The cockpit door closed behind him, and the world narrowed to instruments and procedures, to the familiar geometry of panels and screens. The problem revealed itself with brutal honesty. A cascading failure, a system that had lost its way, a plane that wanted to keep flying but needed guidance. Daniel's hands moved with a confidence he thought he had lost. Years of repairing avionics had kept his mind sharp, had kept him close to the language of flight. The captain listened, the first officer adjusted, and together they built a bridge out of numbers and trust. Outside, clouds gathered like witnesses. Inside, time stretched and compressed, every second heavy with consequence. In the cabin, Noah woke fully, eyes wide, sensing the change. He clutched the armrest, heart racing, surrounded by faces that tried to smile and failed. A woman across the aisle reached out and held his hand. In moments like this, strangers become family, and fear becomes a shared burden. The attendants moved, offering water, offering reassurance, offering themselves as anchors in a storm no one could see. Minutes passed that felt like hours. Sweat traced Daniel's spine. The plane responded, then resisted, then settled into a fragile truce with the air. There was no triumph, only focus, the steady work of keeping wings level and souls intact. When the ground finally rose to meet them, it did so gently, a long, shuddering embrace that ended in stillness. The silence afterward was immense, followed by a sound that rolled like thunder through the cabin, not from the sky, but from hands clapping, from voices breaking, from people realizing they were still here. Daniel returned to seat 11A with a humility that felt heavier than any metal. Noah threw himself into his arms, tears hot and unstoppable. Around them, gratitude moved like a warm current. The plane taxied to a stop, emergency lights painting the windows with red and blue, but inside, something softer glowed. Survival does that. It reminds you that life is not guaranteed, and that sometimes the past returns not to haunt you, but to save you. In the days that followed, the story traveled faster than the plane ever had. Messages arrived from people who had been on board, from families who wanted to say thank you, from a company that had heard about a man who could read the sky and fix what broke. The interview he had flown out for became an offer, one that understood his needs, one that valued a father who had proven his steadiness under pressure. More importantly, Noah slept easier. Nightmares loosened their grip. The world felt a little less sharp. Daniel learned something he had not expected. Being a hero did not require abandoning the life you built. Sometimes, it asked you to bring all of yourself to a moment and trust that love would hold. He took Noah to an airfield on a quiet Sunday, watched small planes lift and land, and felt peace settle where fear once lived. The sky was still vast and indifferent, but he knew now that it could also be kind. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone who carries quiet strength or of a moment when everything could have gone wrong but didn't, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, because your engagement helps these stories find the people who need them most. Please comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. The man in seat 11A slept again on the flight home, Noah's head on his shoulder, the engine singing their steady song, and for the first time in years, rest came not as an escape, but as a promise kept.